to Jasmina, browser with astrology. My name is Jasmina, and today I have two amazing astrologers with me that you probably already know from some previous collaborations we did together. Fernanda from Hitchhiking Stars is here. Hi, Fernanda.
Hello. Hey,
Uh,
nice to be here.
Thank you for joining. And Hannah from Hannah's Elsewhere. Hi, Hannah.
Hi. Good to be here. Yay, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So the three of us talked about, it's a month of love. Valentine's Day is coming up with not such a beautiful aspects. Hannah and I did a special video on Valentine's Day. You can check it out as well. But, on the positive side, let's see what is this all about? What is romance? How can you recognize if somebody's romantic or not? Where do we see love in our life through our astrology lens? So we thought it was a good way to appreciate February and month of love in this way. So before we start, please a short introductions, Fernanda, for anybody who doesn't know you, which I don't know who is that. Tell us more about it, about yourself, what you're doing.
Nice. Okay, so I've been doing astrology for a very long time and is absolute my passion. And I do a YouTube channel, which I never mention for some reason whenever we're doing it live. And where I share insights, weekly insights, and I want to share more information. But yeah, I've been doing astrology for over 10 years now, I think. And yeah, I've got a blog I used to write on my website, and I've done a master's degree in cultural astronomy and astrology as well. And yeah, this is me. I'm working on an astrological tarot course as well, which I'm very, very excited because I love tarot and I've never publicized much my work with tarot. So it's very exciting. Yeah, that's something that's in the pipeline. Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. I'm gonna jump on that train because I don't. I have been resilient with tarot because I don't have the time. But now you're giving me kind of like a push to go that sense that way. So I'm gonna learn from you first. That's amazing. I'm so excited because
Nice.
I wanted to go there, but I don't have the time. And then now maybe this is the sign. It's the time.
I love it. It's like just imagery, so amazing. Like it's really exciting. Yeah.
Awesome. That's amazing. I'm so looking forward to that. Hannah, tell us more. I know you are also very popular on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere, but tell us more. What's happening? Where are you? What are you doing? I know you have Patreon. That's a new thing for you.
Yeah. Patreon would be the most recent thing. So everything's quite different. So with YouTube, it's more about like in-depth, detailed videos, educational. Instagram would be for more sort of like quick information, reels and stuff like that. If you want shorter form content, and then Patreon, it's more about daily forecasts, and you can get PDF guides to go along with the videos. And then there's a new series that is going to be starting this upcoming week. So I'm going to finally be exploring aspects and degrees in astrology. So that's something that is coming up. And if you want those videos early, anyone watching, to become a patron, and you'll be able to get videos early plus the guides to go along with it, because everyone's different in terms of how they learn. Some people it's more about the visuals. So there's the visuals there, and you can read along at the same time by joining the Patreon.
Amazing. Well, guys, you heard it her first, so I'm so excited about it.
Nice.
Very good. Awesome. So before we start, I want to say hi to King's Wellness Ranch and Kyla's Design Studio, where style is made. Wow, that's a good name. And Misbehaving, of course. Hi, Misbehaving. She's such a devoted fan, loyal fan. Yeah. She goes, I'm in the nice position of being subscribed to all three of you. Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss
That's
Behaving.
brilliant.
Brilliant. Okay. So to start this romance, I don't have an agenda, but I was thinking, I know there's always a tendency that people think that Pisces is the most romantic sign. And so what do you guys think? Is it overrated? Is it true? Can we start from there? Who wants to start first with Pisces?
Nice.
Fernanda,
I think,
go.
I think It's true. I do think that Pisces tends to romanticize in general anyways, romanticize people, romanticize situations, or there is a tendency there. And I would go a little bit further and say that this is very much connected with Neptune. So I think Neptune will be very strongly connected with a sense of romanticizing the rose tinted glass is classic Neptune, and I'm talking by experience because I got a Venus Neptune is square, so 100%. And there's a Venus in Virgo, which would be considered very picky and da da da, but the square to Neptune just completely like changed that manifestation, and I think is that sort of Piscean flavor there. Yeah, what do you think, Hannah?
Interesting. Yeah, I would agree. I do. I think this is the whole stereotypical stuff to do with Pisces being the romanticists. Yeah, it's quite true. I actually have Venus conjunct Neptune by the same degree in my chart, so Neptune's quite close this way, which is kind of funny.
Wow.
And even like I was looking at like artists and poets and stuff like that. And I find with when Pluto was in Pisces last, it was during the Romantic Age. And so I think that was like 1798 until 1830s or something. And I was looking into some of the charts of, like the poets and the painters and the writers. There's a guy, I don't know much about these people, by the way. I'm just some
Okay.
connections I find. But anyone watching, maybe just like look up their work if you want. But there's William Blake, and he was a poet and a painter, and he had Neptune in Leo, which I would say is quite strong too in terms of romance, because then Leo can also be tied, in a way to the fifth house and can also be quite romantic within its own way, right? And then there's a guy called John Constable who had North Node in Leo in the fifth house as well. And then the last person I found was Mary Shelley, who had Neptune and Scorpio in the fifth. So there's those kind of like Leo fifth house signatures at the same time, sort of being blended in with the romance side of it, which it was quite interesting, I thought.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so Leo as a romantic sign, that's interesting aspect, because we always think about, it has to be dreamy, has to be, but that actually Leo has this creativity, this connection. They want to connect with somebody on a really like a childlike level, not childish, but some kind of like this intimacy. It can be very romantic. I like that with Leo. That's interesting. Nice. Yeah. So we agree on Pisces. I know that Venus. So Venus is a planet of love and romance. Everybody usually looks at Venus. Where do we see romance? But I like what Fernanda said. Neptune is a very big part of our charts that we see our romantic side that we kind of neglect when we look at synastry, or everybody's like Venus, Mars, and Moon eventually, and then they stop. But Neptune is important, and especially because modern rule of Pisces is Neptune, and Venus in Pisces is exalted as a planet of romance. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it just confirms this feeling and this idea that is very much connected to romance. And I think the idea of romance, isn't it? Like, if you think about it as well, is a sort of a search for the Garden of Eden on Earth. It's like we're sort of romanticizing someone or a situation, which I think is very different from Leonine romance. I think Leo is very romantic as well, but is more of an affirmation of who I am, which would be that sort of fifth house flavor of like, we're going out, you want to know about me, we're talking about, and it's that sort of exciting, stage of a relationship, whereas that Piscean is more of a transcending type of romance, trying to find the divine in your partner. I think that's a more Piscean manifestation of it. Yeah.
So that makes sense. What do you, Hannah, think about Venus in Pisces and then Neptune ruling it, and the difference with Leo and Pisces in that sense?
Yeah, because I suppose with Neptune being the higher octave of Venus as well, and I think that Venus in Pisces really speaks to, that like unconditional love and like feelings of bliss and ecstasy and like escaping, like escaping into some other world, when you're so like caught up in this dream of, oh, you're visualizing or imagining a certain relationship. Like Neptune, I feel, can be quite idealistic in a way. You're sort of dreaming up oh, we could be like this, we could do this together. And I would know this because, as I say, I have Venus in Neptune. I mean, I would used to imagine, it sounds so silly, like, but I'm putting myself out there. I like to talk about my own experiences sometimes, but I would imagine as a kid, the kind of relationship that I thought I would want to have, with people. And I would always be like in these rescuing, like savior roles where like, I'm being rescued into the damsel
Really?
of distress.
I really resonate with that as well. Since childhood, the whole rescuing thing was very powerful. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's interesting. So that's part of being romantic. Like, I mean, romance for everybody is a different thing, but in general, we can say, like a gestures of kindness is romantic, or something that is out of something that takes you out of the cruel reality of everyday life, and puts you somewhere and lifts you up. That's the Pisces thing, like lifts you up in a different way. So that's in common. But I like this. So where is the boundary, ladies? Where is
Yeah,
the boundary between,
that's a good question. Yeah.
right? Going too far.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think over the years, as I got older, I had to revisit this Venus Neptune. And I think for me, it happened particularly when Saturn, my progressed Venus went over Saturn. And I had to really look into the Venus Neptune and, what I understood of Venus in my natal chart. And that's when I started questioning about boundaries and realizing that the idea of unconditional love is very beautiful, but it is not a great seed for healthy relationships. Because you need to be able to say no, you need to be able to set boundaries, to give and take, to have a sense of balance between the exchange. It's not really about saving someone, and I realized that a lot of the saving was connected with self-worth issues and all of that. So I think the boundaries is a very important question when we have a strong Pisces Neptune involved in romance. Absolutely, something that we need to be very serious about if we can. Yeah. How do you feel about that, Hannah?
Yeah, I feel like I had to learn the hard way, as you kind of do with Saturn a lot of the times. Yeah, it's interesting even you say that, Fernanda, because when you said that about with Saturn, I was reflecting, I was thinking with my stellium in the 5th house with Neptune and Venus there, I was thinking because that's in Capricorn. So Saturn was in Capricorn before 2018 to 2020 or 2017 to 2020, something like that. And that was around the time, when it was like those transits. So the Saturn energy passing over those placements for me was also like this time of you cannot keep redoing the same patterns, these same cycles over and over and over, because you can with Neptune, you can get lost. You can just get lost in this hopeless situation, a helpless situation where you're suffering and it's all too much. But Saturn just came along and it was just like, you need to take responsibility here and kind of like fend for yourself. But yeah, it's definitely the boundaries piece, 100%.
Yeah. And like know what you want, isn't it? It's like know what your values are. That's the word, because we're talking about Venus. So it's knowing what your values truly are and to see if the other person is aligned with that or not is different than just looking for an unconditional love is beautiful on paper and as an idea, but doesn't make for a very long-term marriage or relationship where you're very clear about what your values are, where you begin, where the other person end, and etc. It's a recipe for codependence, isn't it? Having a lot of Neptune and going for the unconditional, we're gonna forgive because we're so kind and whatnot. So yeah, finding other ways to express that Venus in the 5th house in the Neptune, which you have it so powerfully placed. So, reading poetry, writing poetry, or I don't know, did you find any other outlets for your Venus Neptune?
Yeah, I feel like with astrology that has been the outlet, because I feel like I pick up on, so this is perhaps maybe another thing with Neptune. You know, I pick up on like music and film and all different forms that I bring into a combination, like reading, and it pours through this kind of like my subconscious. I don't know. I just get this flow, this stream of consciousness that just pours out and onto paper, and I'm like making things, and you're just so lost in it. You know, time just what is time? It doesn't
Nice.
exist. It doesn't exist. So yeah, I would say that was like a really, you know, finding astrology, I think, with that creative outlet has been such a healing thing. And I suppose that's another thing with the Neptune. And I suppose that's also why it's like with Neptune, why you do need to sort of bring it back to you and work on yourself instead of, you know, the whole codependency stuff, like relying on someone else to sort of save you or rescue. It's like, no, I don't need to be rescued, and it's not other people's jobs to rescue you. But yeah, there's so much about Neptune, isn't there, to kind of dive into?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So Neptune Venus connections can make somebody more romantic, let's say, or as you said, Venus in the 5th house, which is, I think it's a in ancient astrology, it's a house of joy for her. I feel, is it?
Yeah,
In the traditional
right.
astrology, yeah. So she, you know, if you have placement there, so so having Venus in Pisces, okay, that's the most romantic one. Which other sign would you consider has romantic tendencies, and which Venus is less romantic, let's say?
Less romantic.
The least romantic.
Would it
Again-
be Venus in Aquarius or Capricorn, maybe? Like Saturn signs traditionally?
That's a good point. I mean, I think one thing that comes to mind as well is that that romance is a matter of perspective as well, isn't it? Like what we understand as romance. So you mentioned Venus in Aries, and I think romance for them would go, I don't know, skydiving together or so. It's like the sort of image of what a romantic date, you know, successful romantic date would be for them. But traditionally speaking, what we see as romance, I think that's what you mean, right?
Yeah. Traditionally, you know, like candlelight dinners and roses and chocolates and, you know, just you know, I love you, and all these, you know, love letters and poems, and, you know, just expressing love so easily, and, you know, just send, you know, just, you're my whole world kind of a thing. You know, not everybody likes that, but, you know, that's kind of, you know, that's romantic. But is it for everybody? That's my point. Like, does everybody think that's romantic? Maybe somebody feels it's suffocating, you know?
Yeah.
Like Venus in Sag likes freedom, you know. So don't tell me this much. You love me, you're putting pressure on me, you know. Like,
100%. I mean, what I thought about was Venus in Aquarius as well, which I think would probably find sickening, all the flowers and all the, you know, the poems and this, and find a bit smothering or something. I would imagine, you know, for them, friendship would be more important as romance. You know, we're friends, with exchange ideas, with have the, and also would probably not follow the Valentine's Day. We'd be like, we don't believe in this. That would be like a Venus in Aquarius, right? I don't know.
Which is fun. It falls in the Aquarius season, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah, exactly.
It's true.
Yeah. What do you, Hannah? What do you think about which Venus has maybe some challenges with being romantic?
Yeah, like you said there, even about Venus and Sagittarius, Jasmina, and I'm also thinking even Venus and Gemini, but then you have Venus and Gemini, so you'll be able to speak to that.
I don't. I have Venus in Cancer. That's my.
Oh, sorry, I got mixed up. My apologies.
My husband has. My husband has Venus in Gemini, so it's very important that we have a conversation. Absolutely, to talk. You know, spending time and talk together. That's very romantic for him. You know.
Yeah. Nice, which suits you because you got so much Gemini. So it's like, that's wonderful. Yeah.
My Venus in Cancer. Sorry, it just I feel it can be romantic, but it can also smother others with romance. You know, like I like to cook and share food, and then, oh my God, it's like, oh, you have to have this and eat this, and you know, it can be like, you have this. And, do you have a blanket? Do you have anything to drink? Like, you know, that's like taking care of somebody. Like, so it can be also very smothering in a sense. is that romantic or not? Like it is in a way, but it has to have boundaries. Everything has to. So I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I even think Venus in Aries has its own way of kind of being this. I kind of think of like a knight, like a knight coming to rescue someone in a way with Venus in Aries, like this knight in shining armor, or like the conquest, like the conquest for Venus in Aries is maybe more exciting than the actual relationship itself. So Venus and Aries types may like swoon other people with like flowers and chocolates or whatever it may be, candlelit dinners. But there still needs to be like excitement and exuberance in it, you know. But really, to think about other signs, yeah, because you're saying there about like Saturn ruled, so
Yeah.
Venus in Aquarius, and then I don't mean to bring it back to myself again, but it's just because I have Venus in Capricorn.
No, that's
I
good.
am not the most romantic person. I'm not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
even though Neptune is there, like it there's a reserved, there's always a reserved quality to Capricorn energy, and there's a guardedness and that needs to be built on over time. But I do have like a big part of me that says I want a love that withstands the hands of time. You know, I long for that like old age, growing old together, years together. Like yeah, that like when you see two older people on the street and you know they're holding hands or they're out for coffee, I'm like, I want that. I want that. So there is that kind of, there's still that romance with it in a way, but it's more about the longevity of things, I think, with Capricorn.
So you say you're gonna be more romantic when you get in your senior years. Okay, we hear you.
No, that's Capricorn, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you, Fernanda? How do you experience your Venus in Virgo? That can be. That's, it says it's challenging. So
Yeah.
what do you express
Venus
from
in
that?
Virgo. Interesting, because I see some people in the comments saying that they've got Venus in
Yes.
Virgo as well. So all
Yes.
of you as well out
So,
there.
here you go.
If I take out the Neptune, which I think makes that Venus in Virgo highly romantic, at least like when I was younger, a lot. I think the romance for Virgo is to improve ourselves together. There's that feeling of like, there's that feeling of improving our lives, improving our routines, improving our diets together. You know, there's always that sense of, I think the Virgoan thing that some people might find upsetting, you know, like, oh God, you're just constantly seeing my flaws or what's not working, but it's just a default. It's like, we can't help it with the Venus in Virgo or planets in Virgo in general. It's like, you're constantly seeing things that you can like improve in some way. Yeah.
What would be the romantic gesture, for example, from your partner?
Oh, acts of service, isn't it?
Yes.
I think Venus in Virgo is acts of service. It's like we're doing little things all the time. We're like folding the laundry, you know, we're like, you know, constantly doing
So-
acts of service, I think. Yeah.
Taking out the trash is like the best rose you can get. I swear.
Sort of. I would say keeping the house tidy, it would be more like it, which would include taking the trash out.
Yeah, I like that. Oh yeah, you know the put the thing on the toothpaste and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Oh, he's so romantic. You know, he put the toilet seat down.
Yeah, it's like brilliant.
Yeah, no, I'm a Virgo rising, and Hannah is also. But we can you know find some romanticism in that for sure. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's really good. Or like taking you to a healthy restaurant as well. It's like, oh, I found this, you know, amazing macrobiotic restaurant. It's like, oh, great, let's go and check it out.
That's good. I like that.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
So before we skip to something else that I want to talk about, I just want to touch the Venus in Taurus, because she likes to be in Taurus as well. I would assume, right? So, what would you think? Is it too are they really romantic, or they're more on the materialistic side? I don't want to judge anybody with Venus in Taurus, but I'm just thinking, you know, what are your thoughts about that?
Nice.
is our gifts the kind of a love language for Taurus Venus in Taurus?
Yeah, I think. Sorry, I'm taking again. Every time you ask a question, I'm like, me, I'm gonna answer. But my partner is a Venus in Taurus, so I experienced that firsthand, and I have to say, their part of their love language is definitely touch, which is classic Venus in Taurus, but giving gifts as well. They can be very generous. So it's not even like materialistic, but it's like, I think Venus in Taurus, as I observe, is really into the appreciation of the material realm. So it's not even that they're materialistic and stingy, but they just love these different realms of the materials. So touches and massages, and on Christmas, my partner gave me a 3-hour massage in a spa, as a gift. It's like a very Taurian
Beautiful.
thing. 3 hours. I never had that in my life before. That's so nice.
It is so Taurian, over the top, and having it, 45 minutes, 1 hour. Come on, it's for sissies. You have to do it proper.
Exactly. 3 hours. And it was like the two of us, in like two massage therapists and the two of us in the room. It was really romantic in a very Taurian way, and then we had chocolate after. Classic Taurian as well. So I think
Yeah.
there is this appreciation of, the material world, which I really love it. I really admire it. Yeah.
And my Venus in Cancer, I love home cooked meal. I love to cook my own. Okay, I like to go out as well, but if I want to be romantic and it's tell how I love somebody, I'm gonna make your favorite cake. I'm gonna make your favorite meal. That's my way of showing, I love you.
Nice.
That's definitely 100%. So romantic or not, it is what it is. Yeah, and of course, I love romance movies. I love romance. So my husband, he wants to appreciate my being romantic. He says, okay, let's watch romantic. No sci-fi now. Let's do one. Snuggling couple having. So that's one of the things that I'm finding that I love this. I love this Venus talk. So not just Venus, but Moon can also tell us more how romantic we are, how we show romance. What do we need to feel love as well, not just Venus? So what would you guys say about the moons? How is this placement of the moon in the chart, somebody's chart, can show romance? Fernanda, what do you feel? Hannah, do you want to go first this time?
Yeah.
I think I just kind of want, it's okay just to jump back a little bit, because I feel like Venus and Libra was not mentioned, and because Venus obviously is home in Libra as well, but the type of romance for Venus and Libra would be a lot different, a lot more about communications, more intellectual. But I do also think that what's important for people who have Venus and Libra is the ability to kind of be more about like equality, or being able to see that there's a healthy sense of give and take, that there's like a healthy, back and forth between two or more parties, whoever's involved, but yeah. And then I think as well, there's the piece with Venus and Libra, it's more about committed relationships and marriage, and getting the government involved in the union, so to speak. But yeah, so they may not. Venus and Libra, I think, can be romantic, maybe more so through like words, or through what they create, and maybe as well there's the ideal. Like Libra can be quite idealistic as well, and there's also the piece of like truth and justice. I think Venus and Libra is a bit more complex and compared to Venus and Taurus in that way. Like with Venus and Taurus, is more like what you see is what you get, but Venus and Libra, it's like there can also be the indecision, especially when Venus and Libra are maybe in their younger years. It's more about kind of seeing who's a good fit, kind of weighing out your options, stuff like this. But with the romantic side, yeah, I think they can be romantic in their own way. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of touch on with Venus and Libra a little bit.
Yeah. Sorry, I just feel that Venus, Sandra, that you mentioned in Libra, is more of a quality time together, kind of a love language. Just like Venus
quality
in Gemini.
time. That's
Yeah, Venus
exactly
in
what I was
Gemini,
thinking. Yeah.
right? That's very, very for them to be romantic. Spend time with me, be with me, appreciate. You look how
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Libra. So
Yeah.
this is it's very similar to Leo in some sense.
Mm.
Could be. And
Yeah.
that now that before we go to the moon, I forgot now that you reminded me. We didn't talk about Venus in Scorpio, and I don't want anybody to resent me, especially Venus in Scorpio. So,
Yeah.
are they romantic? Because they can be very tense. Is that romance, or is it, because they say it's not a very good placement for Venus. But what would Venus in Scorpio think about romance, and what would be romantic for that Venus?
Yeah. I mean, I think first thing that comes to my mind is that Venus in Scorpio doesn't want to. They don't want romance.
Yeah, that's the first thought. Yeah.
They want the rawness. So what's romance for them is the rawness of the intensity and the emotions and all of that. That's what really makes them tick, isn't it? It's like if we think about romance in that way, that's what romance is for them. Is this deep involvement and intense passion and etc. Isn't it?
Definitely.
Yeah. They certainly don't. They wouldn't enjoy much, superficial dinners.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
But
more about it's more about like that intimacy and connecting on a more emotional level. I feel like Venus and Scorpio types would see through, anything that is above the surface or superficial, and they may not really be going for like quick flings. It's more about okay, I want to feel something. I really want to feel something with this person. There's an attachment. There's a strong bond, a strong attachment. Even I know for my partner, he may have Gemini placements, so he has Venus and Moon in Gemini. So we're obviously going on the Moon there as well, which is interesting when I think about this. But they're both in his 8th house, so he has those placements, and then I have Moon in the 8th house. So we're quite well matched in that way, even in our synastry and our composite chart. Which the other thing about that, I suppose, like synastry and composite charts are really important to look at. When we think about these things.
Yeah.
And we have together we have a Taurus stellium in the 8th house. And Venus is a part of it, and the Moon is a part of it.
That's
And
beautiful.
yeah, so we feel like there's that kind of emotional bond, and we just need to give each other a certain look, and we just kind of know like what you're thinking or what's going on. So yeah, I appreciate that about the Scorpio kind of like telekinesis.
That's amazing. I was just thinking about Scorpio. If you share your vulnerability, that they might find that romantic, or just or sharing your resources with them in any sense. Oh, look, this is mine, but I'll give it to you. Oh, that's very romantic. I feel for Scorpios, in a sense that they feel that you are, sharing your deepest things with them and emotions. I think that they might find, because it's showing trust.
Yes,
So
trust.
trust is
Yeah, it's a
important,
big
right?
one. Yeah.
Before we go on, I just want to say hi to the first timers. Jennifer, hi.
Hi,
Nice to see you.
Jennifer.
Hi.
And there was somebody else. I don't want to miss them. They said they were here for the first time. Oh yeah, Dallas. Hi, Dallas. Thank you guys for being here for the first time. We
Nice.
appreciate it. Awesome.
Hi, Dallas. Nice.
Awesome.
I saw Misbehaving sharing a story with us as well.
Yes. Okay, let me see what she did. Yeah. Funny story. I had such mixed feelings about Valentine's Day that we decided to make February 14th the birthday of my pet so that we would celebrate that. And then by coincidence, Valentine's Day. Haha, there you go.
Yeah. I think Misbehaving has Capricorn Venus.
Yes,
we were talking about Capricorn
Oh,
Venus.
yeah.
Yeah, she did say
Brilliant.
Yeah. In the 3rd house. There it is. There you go.
Yeah.
Okay, that's amazing. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes,
brilliant.
Awesome. Awesome.
Nice.
So do we want to touch on the moon? How much moon is important in romance and feeling romantic and wanting that connection?
Good question. I think the moon is fundamental to our well-being in general, isn't it? So if we're thinking about relating, we always need to take that moon with us and share that side of ourselves, or feel that that side of ourselves is seen by someone else is very important. So I don't know, like if I think about a date, I think the moon is still a little bit hidden, behind on a date. It's like it's not going to come out yet, or it's a more intimate set. So the moon will step in, I think. So I would think that romance and the moon is more for a sort of a relationship set rather than a sort of a
Dating.
fling, dating. Yeah, I think the moon is a bit too shy for the dating.
I love
Unless
that.
you've got the moon, unless you've got the moon on your ascendant, and and your moon is right there. Or
That's
you're
a
very
good point.
Cancerian as well, or something. Then the moon is definitely there very strongly. But I do feel that the moon comes out slowly on our sort of daily exchanges, and as we get together, right? I don't know, how do you guys feel about the moon in relation to romance?
That's a pretty good point. Tell me, Hannah. Yeah, what do you think? Fernanda made a good point.
I agree, definitely, Fernanda. I mean, it's that kind of that comfortability. You need to feel comfortable and safe to really show your raw emotions or to show your feelings with someone else. Yeah, and what your emotional needs are. It's also about then how your emotional needs can be in a way supported. Obviously not in a way of like codependency, or where you're looking for someone else in a subconscious way, maybe to like be your parent. There could be issues there, but I think in that way it is important to kind of more so express what you need in romantic relationships in that way.
So before we actually answer this question, I just want to I want to combine what the two of you said. So moon we show later and emotional needs. So that I feel is a problem, because if we date with somebody and we want to show our romance, we don't really show everything who we are, and then later in a relationship the things can pop up. Oh, I thought you were romantic, how people. So where is also that boundary? Depends, how much do you show of yourself when you're dating, and or how much you take for yourself, and how much expectations are. I know I'm philosophizing, I'm sorry, but I'm just thinking, how
Important questions. Absolutely. I think there is such a thing as oversharing as well. If you go on a date with someone and you just blah, like this is me, it's kind of like, whoa, okay. We're just
Too
like
much.
mad. Yeah, exactly. So I think there is a rhythm, isn't it? I think Hannah with her Venus and Capricorn will really understand that as well. As time for everything that we're gonna share and how much we're going to share at each date and each encounter. I don't know. Like there is a bit of a dance there with time.
Okay, so I have another question. So people who are, let's say, overly romantic in the beginning, like a lot of Venus or Pisces placements or Neptunian people, so they come with this expectation, as we mentioned in the beginning, not realistic expectation into a relationship or a dating, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, what happened? Like when reality hits, when they. So I think the way we see romance and love, we need to understand it evolves in time, and we shouldn't just be all in the beginning, which overly romantic person can do, right, with a strong Neptune and Pisces placements.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. I also think that depends on what you're looking for. So this is the first step for any romance or anything. It's like, know what you want. What are you looking for? What's important to you at this stage in your life? What transits are you having, etc. Because if you're looking for a muse, you're an artist and you're painting and and you fully embrace the sort of Piscean Neptunian romance, because that's what you need in that moment. And there's nothing wrong with it as well. But if you're looking for a long-term relationship based in compatibility and, the longevity that Hannah was sharing as well, then I think you need to think again about the whole romance and the whole, idealization of the other person. I know that, Hannah, you were sharing about being rescued as a lot of your fantasy. I think because I have a lot of Virgo I was the rescuer. So I had a lot of people that needed rescuing, you know. And so, yeah, we need to think again if that's not what you want and you're just doing by default.
That that is so true with my Venus in Cancer. Being showing my motherly love to a partner, it's not appreciated always. That's what I'm saying. I have to find a boundaries where my urge to nurture you. Oh my God, I'm gonna hug you and nurture you. I'm gonna, you're gonna be safe with me. That's my Venus in Cancer. Look, this is the food you like. You know how mothers do. You know how literally.
Yeah.
So it's very hard. And my Venus is in conjunct with Neptune. In a degree. So this adjustment, realizing,
Yeah.
what is happening. I had to adjust that my whole life, seeing partner who they really are and how to nurture them in the way they need, not the way,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, what I find interesting about kind of how the houses are set up, and I know with categorizing things, it's not always so black and white or straightforward. But the way I've come to sort of understand the process of the houses is fifth house is more about, with dates and the romantic relationships, more like sort of the beginning stages, if you will, of a relationship, right? So the kind of qualities you're attracted to in a romantic partner. But then you kind of come along to the seventh house, and that's more about long term. It's more about marriage. It's more about commitment, stuff like that. So you kind of get the dating scene in the fifth, and then in the seventh, you get more about, oh, okay, so I'm sort of getting to know you more, but at the same time, you're also being your unconscious is being reflected in a way because we seek out qualities that we may not see within ourselves, within other people. So there is that attraction piece, and there's also the shadow piece. But then you go into the eighth house, and then the eighth house is really where like that intimacy is. It's also where like really this deep psychological transformative stuff comes out, and it's the buried repressed stuff. But a lot of it is linked to your childhood, your upbringing, so the below the horizon stuff. But it's activated through other people, and that's why I think astrology is so profound, because we need other people. Like, we need other people as mirrors to kind of show us, maybe our blind spots, what we're not seeing. And astrology can help us explore that. So the process kind of takes you a step further. And I think at the same time, you link it back to the fifth, because there's relationships, for example, if you are married, it could be where kids are at school, you're busy, you're working a lot. It's like, when are we making time for each other?
Yeah.
When did we last have a date? When did we last have some time off together? And then you go back to the fifth house and you're like, oh, okay, I need time off. Oh, okay, we need to kind of get the sparks back again within the relationship. And I think that can be helpful.
With the person with a child in a marriage with a child, I can tell you that we make effort to literally have a date day, not date night. So we take the my son to the daycare, and when we have to spend the whole day together, because that's the only way. The nights are short, not enough. So we call this the
I
day
love that.
dates. Day dates, and
Nice.
that's very helpful. And you have to make an effort for everything, like in any relationship, you just have to make an effort to do it. But before we talk about Mars, which is also important about romance and love, Brian has a question, and he says, thoughts on Aries Sun, Pisces Moon, Cancer Rising, Venus in Taurus, Mars in Pisces.
Wow.
Wow, that's a combination. It's
Yeah.
not bad for romance. So what would you say when we hear this? Is Brian romantic?
I'd say so. Absolutely. I mean, that Cancer rising ruled by Moon in Virgo with Mars in Virgo, no, sorry, in Pisces, and the Mars in Pisces as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
really
love
think
the
so.
Mars
And
Venus connection. I love the Mars Venus
yeah.
connection.
And Mars is also the ruler of the sun in Aries as well. So we have Pisces as the chart ruler, and Pisces is the ruler of the sun. So definitely there's a powerful impulse to escape. And it could be through being very romantic. It could be an artist as well. Brian, tell us, are you very
Yeah, tell
creative?
us.
What do you do with your
Yeah.
Pisces?
Tell us, what is romance for you? Now we dissected your chart. Hannah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would there be then a square between the rising and the sun as well? So maybe there could be, I don't want to, maybe a little bit too impulsive with your emotions and feelings at the same time, kind of rushing in and out of things. Yeah, but then again, the Venus energy in Taurus can suggest some kind of sensuality, stability there as well. I don't know, I find it hard sometimes to read it like that. I prefer like seeing the visual of the chart
Yeah, yeah,
itself.
yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's a bit more
I,
helpful, but yeah.
and
Yeah.
I noticed that Cancer rising is that caretaker. I can and then there's the Venus Mars connection is good, which takes me back now to the next topic that I want to talk before we because we already 45 minutes in. The connection between Mars and Venus, that's very important for a relationship, for love. So what do we think about, what aspects, what is the Mars part of the romance in the relationship?
I feel like Mars, in a way, helps us initiate. Mars is like that driving factor. So, for example, you could be the most romantic person in the world, right?
Hmm.
But unless you have like a Mars influence to kind of help you get the ball rolling, you're just going to sit in a fantasy or like, oh, I want this, I want this. But the Mars, I think, is like, okay, well, how are you going to maybe initiate? How are you going to take action when it comes to these matters?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
Brian gave us an insight of his chart, so let's of his life. Let's see. He
He
says,
TM?
paints.
I paint and draw a lot and do try to escape in romance. Capricorn in Neptune Uranus in the seventh house too. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
yeah. So he's a romantic guy. You are.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we have other
Yeah.
Venus in Virgos. A lot of Venus in Virgos, Fernanda. See?
I
Then
know. I love you all.
yeah,
Venus in Virgo.
yeah. Very nice. So what would
Um,
you say? So for example, the Mars in Pisces. Then what would you say? Is that that's kind of not a good Mars, but is it a more romantic Mars? What do you feel, Fernanda, about that?
yeah. I think Mars in Pisces immediately makes me think of the Knight of Cups in the
Hmm.
tarot. And that sort of search for romance, because like Hannah, you're saying Mars is how we get it, is how we go after it, is what we go after, is how much energy we have, how much libido, and what drives us. It's like, bam, you go. Mars in Pisces is in search for that romance, is in search for that escape and that sort of beauty that's beyond reality, or, it's sort of actively searching for that. Whereas the Venus in Pisces is sort of seeing that in everyone and kind of,
Hmm.
I tend to find as well Mars in Pisces very charitable. Obviously, it's hard to make a rule out of things, but I do find and I do see in the Mars in Pisces people that I know, they tend to be very charitable as well. Someone comes, asking for money, they're like, immediately. But again, I think as a Piscean, Neptunian, etc. So I think Mars in Pisces has a little bit of that. But yeah, in romance, I do think that Mars will be this sort of drive, will be the libido, will be the sex appeal as well. Is this sort of spicier side of romance a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the aspect between Mars and Venus that makes it also more romantic or not. Are you gonna, as Hannah mentioned, are you gonna take an action on what you're feeling and what you want to do? Somebody asked about Mars in Virgo. So Hannah, what do you feel about that Mars?
Mars and Virgo. Three lines of romance. Sorry, we keep it on
Yes,
romance.
yes, yes. Three lines of
Um,
romance.
maybe, yeah, perhaps not the most romantic, but still the acts of service can come into it at the
Yes,
same time. It is more
absolutely.
through like what you do. I mean, my partner has Mars and Virgo, which is actually kind of perfect because I have a Virgo rising. So it's
Mhm.
actually quite close to my ascendant. So that's the thing with Mars. It's like Mars can show you that sexual appeal, that sexual attraction as well, kind of like pulls you in and
Yes.
that way. So I think with Mars and Virgo, uh, there is that kind of sexual allure, that sexual attraction to people who are clean, take care of themselves, they're healthy. Like there's maybe even being attracted to people who are quite analytical, or they can have a good conversation. They can carry a decent conversation with you, and it's not just fluff. They actually mean what they say. I feel like that my partner can be like that. So there's a little bit of experience in there too.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
what you said. We have a Mars in Pisces here. Hi there. Hi.
Hi.
So this is exactly what you guys were telling. So Venus is, what we want and how we find pleasure, but then Mars is, how we do it, right? Mars is how. That's why we always have to look at Mars as well. I lost my train of thought because I'm looking at all this. So yeah, so Brian is looking for dating advice based on
Dating
his
advice.
chart. Well, depends on the other person. That's the problem, Brian. We always have to look at what is the other person like. But you certainly
Yeah.
love artistic expression. Um, so yes, now I remember what I was going to say. So this is the attractive, is the what we found attractive in a physical way. That's Mars, right? So how much of that is part of romance and love? Is it important? It is important, but how much is it? How do we see that? When does it come along?
Yeah, I think Mars is very much like that, isn't it? It's what turns you on as well. What
Yeah.
turns you on, that would be Mars in general, in life, in everything, including romance. I do think that's a good question there, Jasmina. And I do think, again, over the years and thinking about it, and especially after I had that Venus progressing over Saturn, which I had some deep thoughts, very deep thoughts about relationships and all. I think it depends on your values. Again, it's like, what are your values? For someone that has Venus in Scorpio, the passion side and the physicality will be very important as well. Whereas if someone has a Venus in, I don't know, in Virgo or Gemini, the connection, the intellectual exchange and connection will potentially surpass this need for the Mars and the libido. So I think it really depends. And I find that we're somehow conditioned and bombarded to believe that the physicality of a relationship needs to be manifested in a certain way with a certain frequency, or and if it's not, then you're not really in a good relationship or something. We compare to these prototypes or something, and I think that's something that we need to ask ourselves as well, and look at our charts to inquire a little further as well. How important is that element to us? Truly, because we're all different. We don't need to try and fit into an ideal of what a romantic relationship should look like. I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Absolutely. I like that. That's
Agreed.
good. We have a busy chat. I want to say hi to everybody in the chat. I don't know if we
Hi.
won't be able to answer to all of your questions. A Blue Major is asking, are we in a relationship, all three of us? Why and why not? Well, as Hannah mentioned very well before, we all need to relate and connect with somebody. So it's in human nature. So we are in a relationships, but that doesn't mean those don't define us. As that's how I would say, they don't define us, right? So it's just a human need to have somebody to share life with. Dozy Dreams says Venus is love, Mars is lust.
Lost. Yeah, that's a good word.
Yeah, inflames you, isn't it? Inflame is a good word for Mars as well. That's what inflames you. And
especially Mars in Scorpio, I would say lust all over. Mars in Scorpio for sure. Yeah, right. So okay, let's see other comments. I like how Noesis Lau, I hope I pronounced it well. I like how men are emotional vulnerable to me when they tell me their stories or how they feel. That's also romantic. Vulnerability can be romantic. What do you guys think? Being vulnerable with each other?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Okay, another question. Let's see, maybe astrologically. Let's look at this astrologically. Was there anything learned from previous relationships that have helped with the current relationship? Like in general, how can we learn? Who has
100%.
which signs or maybe aspects or positions in a horoscope can easily learn and adopt, and maybe which cannot? Fixed, mutable. I don't know. Where am I going with this? I don't know, but what would that be?
You used the words there that made me think about mutable signs, because you're like, which signs can easily adapt, and and I think, okay, the mutable signs can easily adapt in anything, but it's difficult to judge, isn't it? Like, really,
In general,
Um,
right? In general.
yeah. In general, I think potentially Scorpio might have a harder time because of the attachment. So
Mm-hmm.
they're very attached to someone or to a relationship or to something, and they won't want to face something because they really in that sort of mode. But I still think that once they learn, they really learn and they really move on. Like there's no in between. Yeah.
Yeah, they're good learners. Yeah. Like
Mm.
like Taurus placements, Mars or Mars in Taurus is just they just don't they have resilience towards any kind of change. They just like the way they do things, right? So putting them in a situation that they need to do something differently, it's very hard. It has to be in their own terms, in their own time, I feel. Uh, Otherwise they can be
Yeah.
really, pressured and not liking the relationship, if somebody is putting them on them. Oh my god, so
Yeah.
many questions. Like I'm totally lost. Like people are just, what about Venus in Virgo conjunct Mars? So Virgo
Mm.
Mars conjunct. Okay, Virgo. Okay, let's go. Not Virgo. What about Mars Venus conjunctions? How that affects romance? People who have those
Y-
placements. How that affects love and romance? Let's go that way.
Mm.
Yeah, I have Venus conjunct Mars in my chart, and there's a part of me that strives for independence in my relationship to be able to do my own thing, to be able to kind of say what I want to do as well. But then there's also the part of me that values the union and values to collaborate. So it's almost like those parts of me they can blend, but at the same time there can be a little bit of a friction, just depending. It depends on the situation. It depends on what's
Mhm.
happening at the time. But yeah, that could be one manifestation of how that could play out for someone.
Mm.
Fernanda, what
Yeah.
do you think about this the conjunction?
I think a Mars Venus conjunction natally usually lends a lot of sex appeal. There's
Mm,
usually quite something about the person, and I've seen in many different signs and in different people coming out in different ways as well, based on their culture and where they're from and how they express themselves. In a Brazilian person it would be in a way, in a Scandinavian person it would be in a different way, but they all kind of have a little bit of that. And
like charisma? Would you say charisma?
is a sort of sex appeal. It's more than
Mm-hmm.
charisma, because I think
Okay.
charisma is very solar, isn't it? The sun is very
Ah, okay.
charismatic. I think it's sex
Mm-hmm.
appeal. There's a about them,
Mm-hmm.
and I also think that there tends to be an attraction to triangles or competition for love. It's like if that other person is interested in someone else, then I'm like, okay, hold on a minute, let me see if I can prove myself, which I think is a little bit of that Mars, is the measuring between that Mars Venus. Like, let me see how attractive I am by competing with someone else. Or I think that could
Mm,
be a little bit of that as well.
that
Fun and games and again, depending on the signs, depending on
Yeah.
that's
yeah.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
those, yeah. So okay. So for example, would you feel that a person who has a square between Venus and Mars that are more have a challenge with being romantic in that sense?
Mm.
Or
Um,
opposition or a square, would they have like it's a hard aspect, would they maybe have just issue expressing romance, maybe they feel but they maybe it's hard to express it, just looking at the
I,
aspect without signs or house or anything, just looking at the dynamics between Mars and Venus.
mm,
Mm.
I think in general, Venus Mars people are very drawn to romance, be a
Ah,
square
okay.
or an opposition. What I
Hmm.
think the square and the oppositions might do is to bring challenges there in the romantic arena, whereas they're sometimes doing all the giving, sometimes they're doing all the taking, and they're sort of in between this sort of finding the middle ground there between being the receptive and being the active person, or what we know about Venus and Mars in general, and like trying to find how to express those two principles might be, and maybe for that reason they're really into romance, because that
Hmm.
really brings is the right place for them to practice and to try and understand themselves. I don't know, what do you think, Hannah?
Yeah, what do you think,
Mm.
Hannah, please?
Yeah, because with squares, I do sort of think of that tension and that kind of warlike quality, and the challenges. So things could be quite conflicted for them. Just, yeah, depending on like what they value and what they want within the relationship. It could even be like a push. Well, I suppose more of the opposition would be like a push and pull, but there could be some sort of like conflict over what they want and what they want to pursue versus like how they wish to collaborate, how they wish to sort of join together with someone else. So yeah, it does depend on like obviously the signs and stuff like that. My partner also has that aspect though, the Venus square Mars. So I would say with my partner, neither of us, I don't think, we're like romantic people, but I think because we both have Earth as part of the equation, it's just more practical. It's just more about like showing up for each other in practical ways is enough to show our appreciation and our love, and it doesn't need to be through like these super grand like gestures and stuff like that. But then I kind of I do sort of think as well of Leo, and I think of the sun and how the sun in the chart can also be like an important quality, because the sun can show up as like feelings of specialness and attention. When it comes to romance and love, it's like, oh, someone's paying attention to me, and there's the butterflies and the sparks and stuff like this. And and it's also like about being seen. You're seen and you're admired when it comes to the sun and Leo in the chart. So I think there's a flavor of the sun that could show up in that way.
Yeah. So yeah, there's always, like in every chart and everything, when you have your sextile or a trine, it's a flowing energy. It's easier to work with those energies, of course. But then, sometimes a good square makes you evolve and have a more quality at the end. It just, because if you have a trine, you just kind of flow the same. You don't, maybe, I like a good square. I don't know. I don't like oppositions, but a good square makes me, evolve and make me, just be a better at something, or just makes me just progress as a person. So as well as in a relationship, I mean, I have Pluto Venus square, so that's why I'm talking about it's very it's very transformational in my sense. Okay. Many people, 3 hot ladies. Thank you, Nikki. Okay.
Hey. Thanks for watching.
So another question, what do you girls think of asteroids? There's so many asteroids here. I use the 4 main ones, like Juno, Vesta, Pallas, and Ceres. I use it in my practice every day. I find them important. I mean, they give another layer when I chart. Are they important for romance? Yeah, tell us, Hannah.
Yeah, because I was thinking about this. I did add a couple. And I thought, so Juno, of course, Juno being the asteroid of marriage in that way. Sure, okay, it may not be super romantic, but the way I kind of look at it is, with that romantic piece, when you are in more of a meaningful relationship, maybe some people, it's more likely to come out. Juno and Leo, for example, it could be when they are actually in a meaningful committed long-term relationship, then that is when the romance really comes out and it shines through, that kind of way. And then I was also kind of thinking about Ceres, the dwarf planet, and thinking about how Ceres is so much about like self-esteem and our self-worth, and it really speaks, it speaks to that, because the thing about, like, when I think about romance and I think about how we share and express love via even Venus, for example, because Venus looks at how we share love and give it and how we receive it. The Venus/Ceres part of it is also about your worth and your self-esteem. And if you feel insecure within yourself, right, if you don't feel beautiful, if you don't feel worthy enough, if you don't feel deserving of someone else's love, well, you're going to be more withdrawn. Like, trust me, I know. I have Ceres in Capricorn, I have Venus in Capricorn, I know all the things what to do with that. But then that's also where, like, that, there is the perseverance, there's the resilience, there's the working on yourself, and like, no, I am worthy of love. No, I can receive love in a way where, like, I feel good about myself. So the Ceres part of it, I think, adds to that self-esteem, and then you're more willing to give, but you're also more open to, like, being seen and being appreciated and welcoming all the romantic things.
I like that. Yeah, Ceres. I have a Ceres in Capricorn as well, and she's gonna move in Capricorn. Maybe she did, and she's gonna be in Capricorn almost the whole year because she's gonna go retrograde. She's not particularly happy there because it's winter time. From the mythology, the mother and daughter are separated at that time. They're not together. Nothing is growing. So, ability to nurture yourself, learning how to nurture yourself, it's very important. With Ceres in Capricorn, it can be like a challenge in that sense. Uh, Digressing again because brains of a Gemini. Okay, so those in dreams, they fill the gap of the female side of things because only Venus and the Moon are feminine planets. The rest were male, so I think they're important. Yeah, I agree.
I agree as well.
Yeah.
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 Okay, do
Yeah.
we have, before we kind of close this excellent discussion? We could talk all day long, but
Yeah.
okay. So let's see, what is this question from Moontix? Seen a lot of things for single Taurus online, and it's so crazy because my intuition is just at peace and calm. Do you feel a lot of positive energy this year for multiple signs? What does multiple signs? I don't know what that means, but I do feel that this year is going to be transformational for many of us. So, what do you guys think? How will this? Okay, let's just maybe something that people might think about. We have all this Aquarian energy, a lot of Mars opposing. I mean, conjunction with Mars and Pluto, and Venus is coming for this Valentine's. People are thinking, just quickly. What do you guys think? How this romance week is gonna go?
Intense. I think definitely intense with this triple conjunction there. Even though it's an Aquarius, I still think is a lot of intensity. But it could also, from a constructive point of view, we could get in touch and reignite our passions. Yeah, this is a time to transform, detox, and rise again. There's this sense with the Pluto there right in between. There is this sense of reconnecting with something that's really important for you in terms of what you love and what makes you tick, because they're both making a sandwich with Pluto. Pluto will be in the middle. It's like the feeling of the sandwich. So we really need to be very, very honest about values and what inflames us and etc., because we could reclaim our power during this triple conjunction as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Hannah, what do you say? I know we talked about it. There's a whole video we talked about it, but just to give this audience today a few words to conclude this talk.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely going to be powerful. And I think the thing about it as well is Chiron and the North Node are conjunct from today onwards at 16 degrees until the 25th. And they're going to be conjunct by the minute on the 19th. But the significant thing about it is Venus is the dispositor of the South Node, and then Mars is the dispositor of the North Node. So I think there's a lot of healing right now within the collective, and a lot of it has to do with overcoming your fears regarding asserting yourself, regarding initiating. It's like it's time to rise. So you said there, Fernanda, like that kind of what I was getting from that was like that real transformative piece, to be able to rise up. And I think the Aries part of it really speaks to like leadership. It speaks to our independence and our courage. And yeah, whatever the outcome is, it's just like, you can do this. You've got this type of week.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah, thank you, ladies. Yeah, I think it's important that we don't lose touch of who we are, and stay positive. So think about, instead of destruction, think about how can you. I always feel like when there's power struggles, instead of struggling, let's be a power couple, like a synergy. Let's do let's go on that side, and then that's
Nice.
you can go, that's the level up. So this is the I just listened to Steve Judd. He has a video, and he mentioned, like, guys, let's just, for the next 72 hours, let's all be positive in doing something new, because like Mars and Pluto didn't have a conjunction at 0 degrees. Last time he said it was in 140 years ago in Gemini. So they didn't. It's like it's a degree of starting new things. So think about how can you empower yourself and start new things. Just think about it for this 72 hours collectively, so we can push in a positive way, not in a destructive way, with all these things happening in the world that are on the destructive side. So I
It's
would
good advice.
yeah, I would
I
encourage everybody.
love that.
Yeah, encourage everybody. I want to say hi to Pernell.
Hi,
No men on the
Pernell.
romance perspective. What do you mean? There's so many romance things about men, romantic men. They are. We could discuss it more. Anyway, so many comments. Thank you guys so much for joining us, for putting your insights, your thoughts, your questions. Thank both of
Yeah.
you. I love chatting with you. I can't wait for something else that we will think about and chat again. This has been
Nice.
the best Sunday morning in weeks. Thank you for that.
Nice. Yeah, it's great. I love it as well. It
Yeah.
was
So
good.
one
I
more
enjoyed
time,
it.
yeah, guys, please follow both Hannah and Fernanda. Look what they're offering: courses, Patreon, many different beautiful things. Yeah, you can find me on my website and also on YouTube and everywhere. um, I don't know. I think I might do my workshop again if there's not enough people. So yeah, my workshop on element balance, that was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. Happy Valentine's Day. Stay positive. Hugs and loves.
Thanks.
Bye.
Happy
Bye.
Valentine's.
Have a
Bye
fun
bye.